Hi everyone, my name is Trish and I'm the second runner-up of MasterChef Singapore Season 2. And today I'm at 1 per bag and I am going to do 2 dishes using our Thermomix. So the first dish that I'm going to do today will be the Japanese miso glazed fish with Japanese gohan rice. And the second one will be a dessert. It will be a Japanese mochi with red bean soup. So the red bean soup will take like slightly longer time, so we will start by making the red bean soup first. So to start, we will need about 200 grams of red bean. So I'm using the Azuki red beans today. It's the Japanese red bean. So you can choose to actually soak it a night before to soften the bean first, alright? So you can just pour everything into our mixing bowl, followed by about 1 liter of water. So if you want your red bean soup to be more thick and not so diluted, you can add lesser water as well, okay? So I like my red bean soup to be like more gao, so I'm going to put slightly lesser, but it's really up to your personal preference, okay? And just a pinch of salt. And I'm just going to cover up. So I'm just going to set it for about an hour for it to cook at about 100 degrees. Reverse mode. Okay, so your red bean soup is as simple as step 1, 2, 3. Okay. And we will leave this to cook and we will start by making our second dish. So everyone loves onsen egg, right? So today I'm going to make onsen egg over our Japanese rice bowl. Just put your eggs inside the mixing the basket. And now what you need to do is just very simple step. Set it on a medium soft mode and you will get your onsen egg after 10 minutes. So the next up we will do is our miso glaze for our fish. So to make our miso torch fish, we will need some miso, sugar, mirin and sake. So to save some time here, we are going to boil our eggs in another Thermomix. So now we are going to start off with our miso glaze. Okay, to make our miso glaze, you will need about 100 grams of white miso. So the beauty of Thermomix is that you can actually weigh your ingredients while cooking in it. And you can actually just get rid of many of these like equipments that's like lying around in your kitchen because you have so many functions in Thermomix, right? Slightly more is fine. And I'm going to add in about 200 grams of sake. Okay. And next is our mirin. About 100 grams. Okay. And sugar. Okay. And we'll set these to reduce for about 20 to 30 minutes. So I'll put at 30 minutes first at 100 degree and reverse mode. Okay, so once this miso glaze is ready, you can actually transfer to our small little Thermomix jar and you can store them in the fridge and use it for later use. You can actually use it as a glaze for your chicken or any seafood. So now our eggs are done, we can transfer our miso glaze once it has been reduced. Okay. I think we can transfer the miso glaze to the other Thermomix to cook, so that we can actually use this Thermomix to actually make our gohan. Okay, so now we will do the rest of the things first, and we will put our fish aside first. So we will let this miso glaze continue cooking in our Thermomix behind, while we will start on our dashi stock. So now with the miso glaze cooking behind, we will start with our dashi stock. So at home, I usually like to make my own dashi because it's actually the basic stock for all these Japanese cuisine. You can use it in your tamagoyaki, in your chawamushi, and in all those Japanese stock that you're making at home. Okay, so to make our dashi stock, it's actually very simple. Okay, for dashi stock, it's actually very quick and simple with just like 2 ingredients. Okay, so we have about 1 liter of water, our kombu, and we'll leave it to boil. We'll put at 65 for about an hour. If you don't have time, you can actually put at 45 minutes. So today I will put at about 45 minutes. Okay. And I will put on reverse mode because I don't want it to actually, I don't want the blade to actually cut through our kombu. Okay. So why I put at 65 degree is because for kombu it's actually very heat sensitive. So if you actually boil it at very high temperature, right, the kombu will become slimy and your stock will become a bit bitter. Okay, so the Japanese have identified a new way to cook our kombu, which is to cook it slow cook for 1 hour using 65 degree heat. So I'm using Thermomix to do this because it's really convenient. It helped me to control my temperature throughout the whole cook, and so I can just be hands-free and do other things as well. So for the bonito flake, we will only put it into the stock at the last few minutes of the dashi stock. Okay. So this stock will be our base stock for our rice later on. So now let me check on our red bean soup. It's really convenient, right? Now you can cook red bean soup without even watching over it. So, and if you like more you like those like thicker, like those red bean paste kind of texture, you can actually just give it a little blend later on at the end of the cook. So this is actually really the whole essence of this Japanese cuisine, just dashi stock. You can actually freeze it in the fridge and into different batches. It's just like how you make chicken stock from Thermomix and you just freeze it in different batches. Okay. So actually, many people ask me, hey, the white color thing on this kombu, is it dirt or something else? But it's actually the 精华, is the essence of the kombu. The more dusty it looks, right, it's actually the more high-end, more expensive. Yes, that is the one that gives you the umami flavor. So I actually did one episode on Channel 8, one of these variety show that features umami taste. So they asked me, what is umami? So umami is actually a term that is being used by Japanese. Like when you eat this, when you have a dish, you got all these different flavors that comes into your mouth. So you got this like undescribable like feeling, like you don't know how to describe this kind of flavor. It's called umami, and then it's actually found in what they call MSG. So what kind of food contains umami? It's like seafood. Seafood has very high content of umami, and then all these dashi, bonito, they are all very good flavor of extracting those kind of like MSG flavor, those umami flavor. Yeah, so you can actually make your own broth at home by using, you know, simple ingredients, and it's actually so much more healthy as well. Like mushroom as well. Mushroom has a very high content of umami also. Yeah, so mushroom, seaweed also. Yeah, so all this, if you know how to actually extract flavors from all these ingredients, right, it's very easy to, you know, like play around with all these flavor. We'll bring this dashi stock to the back and continue simmering, and then at the end of the last few seconds, we'll then put in this bonito flake. Because bonito flake, right, the moment you put inside, let it sit for about like 30 to 1 minute, 30 seconds to 1 minute, right, it will not have any more flavor. So even though you continue boil and boil and boil, you are not going to extract any flavor out of this bonito flake, so no point doing that. Okay? So now our dashi stock is cooking behind. We will start with the rice first because we actually made a pot of dashi earlier on to save some time. So for this gohan recipe, we will be using some chopped mushroom, some carrot, and some of this Japanese tofu. Okay. So I will put in the carrot first. Some mushroom that I already pre-soaked. And do you know that I always reserve this mushroom soaking liquid to cook because it actually contains a lot of flavor in it. So people always throw away all this water, but you can actually put it inside to cook it as well, okay? Okay, so I'm going to chop up the carrots and mushroom in the mixing bowl first. Okay, continue for another, go on a higher speed. For those people who are lazy to chop things, right, the Thermomix will be your very good friend. Okay. Okay, so now my vegetables has been chopped out. I can actually just transfer them out. Then we can start cooking our rice. Okay. So if you can't find this kind of like Japanese tofu puff, you can just opt meat or you can just use our like local one. Okay. Just going to chop up the tofu puff. You can just give it a few dice, okay? Okay. So this is the dashi stock that we pre-prepared earlier on. So I'm going to put about 650 ml of water, of stock. Okay, slightly more is fine. And I'm going to put in about 200 grams of Japanese rice. For about 28 minutes, okay? So when the rice is halfway cooked, we will add in all the other ingredients on top to actually cook it. I think the red bean soup is almost ready because we actually soak it overnight, so it reduces the cooking time. So now I'll add in the sugar. I'll add in half of the sugar only because I think most of the people doesn't like too sweet. If let's say it's not sweet enough, I think we can still add in sugar. But once it's very sweet, we cannot really save it by diluting it. So I'll put in half the sugar first, okay? I put in 120 bean to about 800 to 1 liter water, depending on how thick you want your red bean soup to be. Let me just look at the texture of the red bean soup. So if this is the texture and consistency I want, I think I can stop cooking already because we already pre-soaked the beans yesterday. Okay. I think my red bean soup is quite thick and the consistency looks good, so I'm going to stop cooking already. Okay. So I think we can take this out. And we can make our little mochi. So once our mochi is done, our dessert will be ready. Okay. So I think we can put this aside to keep warm first. Okay, so then we can actually do our little mochi ball. Actually, mochi ball is very similar to our tang yuan, right? It's just tang yuan but mochi in Japanese term. Okay. So now we are about 10 minutes into our rice. So I will stop the machine for a little while and I will add in our topping first, okay? Okay. So I'm just going to put this on top, okay? Cover up. And I will continue cooking it. Okay. So once it's ready, we can actually add in our seasoning at the last part. Okay. So once our miso glaze is done, our rice is done, and we are only left with our mochi, and then we can steam our fish because steaming our fish wouldn't take very long, and we don't want to overcook the fish as well. Okay. So for the mochi today, we are using green tea powder because I think a little bit of green color, a little bit of green on the red bean soup will look nice, okay? So next time if you are making tang yuan, you can also consider making a matcha flavor as well. So we'll put our glutinous rice flour inside. So when you are buying the flour for making your mochi, right, don't buy the wrong thing because if you are buying rice flour, it's not going to work and it's not going to make it into a dough. It's a two different kind of flour, okay? And you put in your water, matcha powder, and a bit of sugar. So for the mochi, right, in Japan, they also like just bake it or they toast it or glaze it with some brown sugar. So you can actually make into different kinds of dessert that you want to. So I will just set it to dough. Wash this. Actually, the color look very cute, very nice. Okay. So you just put a little bit of flour on the plate. Then we can just roll our mochi ball. So we can probably have another mixing bowl. So at the same time when I'm actually rolling out the mochi ball, we can also prepare our boiling water to actually boil our mochi ball. Ah, come, we got volunteer already. Yay! And make sure your hands are dry when you do this. If not, later when you roll, right, all the rice ball all sticking to your hand. I think you can have a bit of different shape so that you get different texture. So I got some slightly bigger, some smaller.
Yeah, the texture very nice. Not
Yeah.
sticky to the hands.
Yeah, so this is the texture that you must be looking at so that it's not too hard, but it's also not too soft that you cannot roll it. Okay, thank you. So now we'll put this one side. Keep the table clean. Okay, so now the rice should be ready. So now the rice is cooked, right? We can transfer out to a bigger bowl And that's where we season with our soya sauce, our mirin, and our sake. Okay. So now the water has been boiled. I'm just going to switch it back on for another just like 10 minutes or lesser, because the mochi, the moment it float to the top, right, you can actually just remove from heat already. And I'm going to continue at 100 degree and reverse mode. Okay, so I'm just going to open this up. Okay, and I'm going to throw my little mochi in. Okay, everything in. We will just wait until the mochi float to the top. Okay. Okay. So coming back to the rice, now the rice is ready. I'm just going to transfer the rice. Okay. So now we will season the rice with some mirin and soy. Because previously we have not put anything inside yet, no salt inside the dashi stock. So now we are going to season the rice. Okay. So I'll just put less than half first. I will just leave some behind first in case you all need it to be more salty. Then you all can actually add on according to your preference. Okay. And also mirin. Mirin is just to give it some sweetness. So we're going to just put this aside first. Okay, and then over here our mochi is done. Okay. Okay, so now you can see the mochi all very cute, all floating on top. Okay. So the mochi, because of the green tea powder, it will has a bit of a green tea, a bit of bitter taste. But when you are serving it together with the red bean, it will complement each other. If you don't soak it in water, right, the mochi ball will actually stick together when it's cooled down. So you must actually soak it in water, and then you just scoop it when you want to actually eat it. Okay. Okay, so now we have finally come to the last part of our whole dish today, and the last thing we want to do is to actually steam our fish. So today I'm actually using barramundi, but at home if you have other fish like cod fish, you can actually feel free to use that as well. Okay, so I'm just going to season the fish with some sake and mirin. They are my best friend. Sake and mirin always together one. Okay. And some soy. So I'll just put some ginger in between the fish to steam. Okay. So I'll steam this for about just 6 minutes. So the timing of the fish, right, will depend on how thick your fish is. If it's like a smaller cut, you will probably take lesser time, like about 5 minutes. But if it's like a whole fish, you'll probably take like longer time. Okay. Our onsen egg are ready as well. So once our fish is ready, we touch it and then we will serve it together with our gohan rice earlier on and top it on with our onsen egg. So the miso glaze is ready as well. The miso glaze is also ready. It's still slightly warm, so once it's completely cooled down, it will become thicker. Okay, and you can actually store this in the fridge and just bring it out when you want to use it. Okay. Okay, so now the fish is ready. We will just take it out first. And we will drain away all this water inside as well before we actually glaze it and torch it. Okay, so now we just want to transfer the fish. Leave this aside. Okay, so now the interesting part is here. Okay, we are going to just glaze this fish with some miso. And I'm going to just torch it. Can you all smell the fragrance from there? It feels like you're in a Japanese restaurant already, right? Okay, so now I'm just going to plate everything up. Okay. I'm going to just top it up with some furikake, which is a Japanese rice topping. And add some tobiko. Thank you for joining me today at One Pearl Bank Show Gallery, and I hope you guys enjoy my tutorial today. See you next time!